Ladies and gentlemen, absolutely crazy times in the world of chess. It is September 11th, 2025. The Grand Swiss tournament is underway. A friendly reminder that the top two finishers of this tournament will make it to the candidates. Gukesh, the world champion, is playing. He is struggling. The race for first and second place in this tournament is wide open, and today it got a massive shakeup with Hans Niemann winning a breathtaking game. Then I will cover the Gukesh story. Then I will cover all of the other important games as they pertain to the standings of the event. Crazy, crazy times indeed. Here we go. Hans Niemann is up against Yaz Khan Erdogmuş. Like, you can't script this any better. The young prodigy from Turkey who just won an amazing game by sacrificing his queen earlier in this event, and it doesn't get any easier, right? It doesn't get any easier. So we have e4 from Hans Niemann. We have e5 from Erdogmuş. Knight f3, knight f6. We have the Petrov. Takes, d6. Not super important stuff here. The opening isn't particularly of interest. But an interesting move here is from Hans Niemann, who doesn't play the critical castles, or, there's some positions white can go for, let's say, c4 or knight bd2. Instead, according to theory, the most common move is to castle. He plays immediately, he does castle, I apologize. And then in this position, rather than playing for c4, he plays c3, which is a very solid move. It defends the center, it fights against the knight over here, and now Black spends 21 minutes on the next move, which is the best move, actually. The move is f5, but it's a very, very weird position because it almost feels like this is not the way you're supposed to play chess. Like, whatever happened to developing our pieces and castling, but the idea is to put the queen behind the pawn and then support a pawn attack and actually castle this way, which is what Black goes for, but he sets the kitchen on fire, does yes. And this is a very, very sharp position because you can't take this knight. I'm going to immediately take and apply pressure. And that is why here Niemann plays queen a4, putting pressure on the knight, putting pressure on this side of the board. What's interesting is that with the queen here, at this point, the computer is like, hey, I actually maybe don't want to castle that way. Maybe I want to go that way. I just want to stay flexible. I don't want to commit my king anywhere just yet. It's really hard to do that because it's obvious white wants to go knight e5 next, taking advantage of the fact that there is no more pin. But Black castles. Hans plays bishop b5. He wants to take the knight, maybe take the pawn, maybe put the knight on the e5 square. Black plays knight takes, and does find the best move. Like, Erdogmuş is finding great moves here. f4, and then rook e1. And now, by the way, Black can start going g5. Black can just start generating an attack, but more than anything, it's actually trying to repel white from ever getting this bishop out. And you can take on c6, and then if the queen takes, there would be some sort of queen a7. It's super complicated, but on the 13th move already, he makes a mistake. So the position is just simply too sharp to handle. It wasn't about f3, it was about g5 and control. g5 and a controlled sustained pressure where at some point in the future you will do the other stuff, but not right away. By playing f3, you liberate the white position. He plays h3 to try to kick you out, but the position's very, very sharp. h3 is not the best move. But folks, it's about to get real epic. Hans Niemann takes the knight, and then he plays rook e5. He is now winning. Erdogmuş completely mishandling the time situation here. Obviously, the pawn's near the king, wide open, a7, c6, a6, etc. h5 is hanging, bishop is hanging. Queen goes to g6. White plays g3 so that he doesn't get checkmated. Bishop d6, and now begins the series of brilliance from Niemann. The rook is hanging, but the best move is to sacrifice it. Of course, Hans knows. He can try to deny it all he wants, but he's a fan of the channel, and what we do on this channel is sacrificing the rook. The knight will go to c5, the queen will take on c6 or a6. The king is not going to be able to escape. You cannot actually take the rook. It is too dangerous. So, Black goes rook f8. White follows up with bishop e3. He's going to bring the next rook. This. You may be wondering, why is he just not taking on a7? It's actually funny. The king could escape. And if he takes on c6, this is even worse because now the queens might get traded. So you have to time this correctly. After rook e8 was played, queen c6, he does. He does time it correctly. Because now you will have check, and check when the king goes to d7. Bishop takes e5, check here, queen takes d5. Hans Niemann picking up as many pawns as possible. He's down a rook. By the way, he is down a rook. And now we end the game in style. Queen f5, defends the bishop, defends queen e6, threatens queen h3. The third and final brilliancy of the game, bishop to g5. Sacrificing yet another piece. The black king does not have a single legal move. So you either have to take and get mated, or block, or Domush blocks. But he loses the bishop. He will lose the rook as well. And the game ends. He doesn't even wait for Niemann to make a move. Rook to e1 would have been game over, because after king f8, you would have taken, and then checkmated. There's some queen d7, there's knight e6, etc. Great game from Niemann, and a tough one for the superstar from Turkey. But listen, this tournament is like that. You could really get hot in this tournament, or you could lose several games in a row. And folks, I'm about to show you something quite crazy. All right, buckle up. We have the other young star from Turkey. Turkey right now is really in a great spot with chess, and in particular, it's these two guys. It's Gurel and it's Erdomush. So, e4, c6. Karl Khan from Gukesh. He has lost 2 games in a row now. d4, d5. We have the advanced variation with bishop f5. White plays h4 and c4. Black plays e6. Very solid. Knight c3, knight e7, developing, fighting for the control of the light squares in the middle of the board. White develops the bishop and the rook. Everything has been developed. This is free, but it's a little bit dangerous to take it, which is why first Gukesh plays the move f6. Pawn takes f6, pawn takes, bishop e3. All of this has been played before. Queen b2. Very sharp position, but both guys have not spent any time. They obviously know what type of opening they are in. Pawn takes d5. Knight takes, white takes, black takes, bishop d3. 15 moves have been played. Bishop b4 check, king f1. Both guys completely in their preparation. We have a trade. We have long castle from Gukesh. This is the move. Now will white think? No. He does not think. Queen goes to a3. Now white plays instantly again. The queen goes to a4. King g1. King g1. Played. Now the best move is bishop d6. Gukesh plays it. These guys have played 20 moves. They start the game with 100 minutes. On the 20th move, they have 102 minutes. They are only gaining time. So both guys showing excellent opening preparation. Now the thinking begins. Except not for Gukesh, who is still playing instantly. But that move was easy. g3, and now the thinking begins. Gukesh, knight b6. So this is the position. It's extremely sharp. Both guys have castled on opposite sides. But here's the thing. They're not going to checkmate each other. Like, I know what you think, opposite side castling, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but the thing is, white has lost every pawn on this side of the board, basically. Black has lost every pawn on this side. I mean, like, nothing can move. So, in the long run, what will likely happen is an imbalanced endgame. An endgame where one guy has more pawns on this side trying to promote, and the other guy has more pawns on this side, which can also be very stressful. Edis plays king g2, Gukesh centralizing the knight on c4, rook b1 going for doubling, and now this nice move, very solid b6, just not letting anything get through. Now look at this position. I think in the future, probably black has the better prospects. I don't see how white makes progress. a3 is a kind of a pass-back move. Gukesh plays rook e8, bishop h6, and then he played rook e4, and here, Gurel could have had some sort of advantage. It's kind of mysterious how, but okay, he just plays queen d1, because like I said, it's not easy to make a move here. You know, and now Gukesh kind of starts taking over, rook to f3, he trades the queen, very nice. Now he should just put the knight exactly where it was. But okay, rook h7 is also reasonable, rook e6 is reasonable, and now, you know, with white, you can try to play knight c4 and continue to, you know, apply pressure. But actually what ends up happening here is Gurel makes the game extremely complicated. He is just purely set on winning these pawns. Rook e2 is the move played by Gukesh, king f1 kicks out the rook, and the rook goes here, but it would have been better to stay in the middle. Gukesh wins the pawn on d4, but loses the pawn on f6, and now we are getting closer and closer to this complete apocalypse of an endgame where all the pawns have cleared out. And again, this is just Gukesh's style. He's not just optimistic, like he he really plays in the most combative way possible. Look at these pawns. I mean, once those pawns start moving down the board, he's going to beat Gurel the same way Gukesh lost in the last round, which was to the connected pass pawns of Theodora. Rook f5, Gukesh 5 minutes on the clock. Gurel, by the way, one of the best blitz and bullet players in the world. Me and Idis have played a lot of bullet. He doesn't know that because I usually play him on some secret accounts. I maybe have 1 or 2 wins and he has like 10. Like he is so strong. I mean, I've also lost to Gukesh as well, but we've never played bullet. That's probably my best chance to win. C4, knight f6. This is the position, boys and girls. I told you, 3 pawns for white, they're going to zoom up the board. 4 pawns for black are going to zoom down the board. And my nose is just, oh my goodness. Some days like have random allergic spikes. And today is one of those days. And when I talk, it's like, hairs here. I tickle my nose. Oh my God, it's just such a mess. Rook d3, h5. And apparently rook d3 is a mistake. I mean, I don't know. Bishop d8, rook f5. Gukesh now has 37 minutes on the clock to work with. The position is so sharp. I have no idea how can anybody keep their nerves here. In a few moves, the game gets back to equal. King f1 is a mistake, allegedly. Bishop e7. And here, Gurel plays g4. And I mean, I don't know how you stop the pawns. As it turns out in this apocalyptic endgame, it's white who is playing for a win. And there is a line here. There is a line that saves the game for black, but Gukesh doesn't find it. And it's because it's practically unfindable. It's practically unfindable. White has a very simple plan. G5, G6, G7, G8. Black doesn't have enough time to make counterplay with these pawns. Like, if you go C2 here to try to play rook d1 check, I just go here. Now you have to leave. Then I take. So that's how much that counterplay, goes. Gukesh sacrifices his bishop, which is given a double question mark by the computer, but it's still complicated. He had to play the move bishop takes, rook takes, check, and go for this position. And here there is just one move that draws the game for black, and it's so hard to find. It's rook b2. I don't know how on earth you're supposed to play this move. The idea is to be on the other side and then push like this. And then if white goes, let's say, g6, rook h6, g7, you sacrifice your rook, and this is a draw. Because if they're check here, I queen. You have to lose like this, and this is a draw. So Gukesh needed to play take, king b7, and rook b2. And instead he does this, which Gurel actually thought was the best. And then here he makes a mistake. He allows the bishop to reposition itself to f4 from where white is just winning. Because not only do you defend the pawn, you also protect promotion. And after one more move, just rook b6, rook b6, rook f6, Gukesh resigned. And Gukesh has now lost 3 games in a row. Which is crazy because a couple of things about this. Obviously, like, look, at the very beginning of the tournament, I said, it was weird for the world champion to play in a tournament where he doesn't even need to play. This tournament is the Hunger Games of tournaments to qualify for the world for the candidates. He's playing in this tournament for practice. I mean, he just wants more reps, right? He wants to establish a level of dominance and get some reps in. The problem is he's now lost 2 games to 16-year-old grandmasters who are thirsty for opportunities. Gurel and Mishra are, they don't have as many opportunities as 2700s. So Gukesh is now down to 2750. But how about this for a statistic? I was curious, when is the last time Magnus Carlsen, who was the previous long-reigning world champion, Ding Liren was the world champion after he won it, when did Magnus Carlsen ever lose 3 games in a row? And the answer is in 2003, courtesy of Tarjei Svensson. 2003. That is incredible. 3 classical games in a row. Magnus has last lost 22 years ago. Jokes aside, a bunch of you weren't even born then. I always make fun of you saying you're 5 years old and whatever, but especially those that are writing in the comments. That's nuts. And tomorrow, Gukesh is playing Divya. Divya, who's also having a great tournament. Okay. This is wild, and I hope Gukesh can right the ship and doesn't totally spiral out of control. And now I would like to show you some other super important games for the standings. First of all, board 1. This is Nihal Sarin versus Parham Maksudlu. This is a game on the very first board. Nihal is half a point behind Parham. So, Parham has been stable. He's been playing quite well. He's been defending his top position throughout this tournament. And it's very curious, how long will he stay up there until he gets fought. By the way, very, very solid system. 95. Spending a lot of time in the opening, by the way, is Nihal, who spent 8 minutes on the third move. I guess he wasn't expecting Slav defense from Parham Maksudlu. Nihal playing in a very, F3 is a crazy move. Trying to go for G4 ideas, Parham just castles, keeps it very simple. He's not taking any risk. By the way, look at this move from Nihal, King F2. Best move, by the way. Getting out of the way of the pin with ideas to play G4, H4. I love Nihal's style of chess, dude. It's so ridiculous. Knight D7. Here comes Nihal. Knight A4 now. King F2, Knight A4, Opposite sides of the board playing like this. Queen has to move. Now we go Bishop C7. Deflecting the queen from the defense of the bishop. Not the best move. Parham gets a little bit of an initiative here in the center of the board, but Nihal brings the rook and then brings the bishop. And I mean, it's just so absurd. Nihal gets to play the whole game with the king on F2. Rook E6, obviously trying to create E-file counterplay. We have a capture. Queen F4 hits the bishop, so the bishop slides back. Rook D1. And in this extremely messy position, Nihal just establishes a very strong knight outpost. Pressure against these two hanging pawns. The A-pawn hanging not like they can be captured, but they hang in the middle of the board. This A-pawn could be a long-term weakness. And Nihal is very good at positions like this. He's just very good at these kind of mysterious little positions where neither side can quite move. Parham reacts very strongly. This move was unnecessary, but it's an understandable move. Preparing potentially for the endgame. H5, A5. Parham playing a delayed crab, right? On both sides. A4, he shuts that down. H3, just solid. Now both guys getting into a time trouble. The one thing you don't want to do is get into a messy time trouble against Nihal Sarin. He's so tricky. The knight jumps out. The queens were staring at each other. The knight was defending the queen. By the way, knight E6, you can't even take with the pawn because I would have taken, leaving you with weaknesses. And then B3 is just nice and solid. 2 minutes per player. They both have to make 10 moves now. Nihal, one of the best scramblers in the world. 3,200 blitz. Queen C5, Queen B8. Queen A5. Parham goes down a pawn. He goes down a pawn, and he's going to go down a second pawn. And this is also hanging, but he plays Rook E3, and now Rook C7 here is the move to block the queen. Instead, Nihal goes absolutely bananas, allows the queen into the position, but after King to F1, you actually do not have time to take the knight. Right? You don't have time to play this move. White would very quickly play Queen D5 check. So Knight to F6 comes in. Parham is a piece down. But this bishop is the defensive line for checkmate on E1. Rook takes F6 now is the best move from Sarin, who finds it. He plays this move in a minute, and he plays it with 3 seconds remaining on the clock. G takes F6, and now Knight takes H4, sacrificing another piece. Because if you take it, I play Queen D5, and all of a sudden, I have 3 extra pawns. I get into an endgame where you have these idiot doubled F pawns. No disrespect, but they're idiots. And then White has 5 pawns. Parham was not happy with this prospect, and he plays Rook B3, which is a mistake, because now the knight survives. And now, not just the knight surviving, White is actually surviving the checkmating attack. The king returns back to F2, and when we make the time scramble, 42 moves, Nihal Sarin beats Parham Maksudlu, his first loss of the tournament. And Nihal is in first place. Nihal is winning the Grand Swiss with 5.5 out of 7. He has now won 3 games in a row with wins over 26-15. Mendonça, Gumilars, and Parham Maksudlu. In the next round, he will play a player who I am about to tell you a little bit more about. Crazy game from Nihal, who wins this game. Extremely complex scramble, a minute per player. And somehow Nihal got it into the type of position he specializes in, even though they get 100 minutes to start the game. Now, more games. Alireza Firouzja, Nodirbek Yakoboyev, the other Nodirbek, if you will. We have an Italian. Firouzja entering a fried liver attempt with knight g5. This is just the main line. People are not blundering the fried liver. Queen f3. This is a line where white grabs a rook, but black gets a very serious initiative with knight, bishop, etc. Look at all these pieces flying forward. White plays knight e3. The knight jumps to e2. All of this is well known. I know it looks completely mysterious, but I promise all this is normal. Bishop takes a3. Pawn takes a3. Very, very long sequence. I know. I'm not even going to try to explain this to you. This is all memorized. They memorized this opening, basically. Queen b1, yes, all of this has been played. I think, yeah, all of this is correct. I think f6 is actually the best move, or h6. f5 is the move that was chosen by Yakoboyev. But after queen b1, he, I think, realizes the mistake. I think the pawn should have been on f6, and he plays h6, and the position's just simply too sharp. Because knight e6 comes in, sacrificing the knight, deflecting the defender of this knight, trying to get queen b5 check. Knight e6, queen b5, and the dust finally settles in this position with white having a 2-pawn advantage and a rook for a knight, which is a 4-point advantage. And yet it's only 0.5. So the computer thinks that black has nearly 3 points of compensation in the form of activity. And it's true, these pieces are very actively placed near this king. There are all sorts of checkmate threats swirling. The best move in the position is to bring the rook. Yakoboyev is not stupid, he does exactly that. And now the best move, well, look at this. Bishop f3 is disgusting. There was also knight takes g2, by the way. Both moves that would have immediately generated counterplay for black. Knight takes g2, bishop g2, queen c4 ideas. He plays this, and this allows Alireza for just one more move to strike, looking to win the knight, looking to win the pawn, looking to win the bishop. It's a very delicate position. You have to go knight e2. He does. And now you have to go queen b7. There is a very, very small difference of where the queen is positioned tactically. I don't think it really matters because it will go for the exact same sequence, but queen b7 is better. He goes queen c6 with threats of mate. Alireza defends mate. Brilliant. I mean, it's a fake brilliant. And now you have to take the knight. You have to take the rook. This is beyond complicated, right? But the thing is, when you play such a high-risk opening with black, it's like poker, raising pre-flop, raising the flop, raising the turn, raising the river. Like, sometimes you have to commit 3 times. That is the only way to win the money. You can't show weakness. And the problem is, if you have played this completely ridiculous opening, you have to be crazy throughout. And here you have to take queen f5. You have to take on g2, king g1. Then you have to go like bishop h1, queen e5, king f7, queen f4. There's a hanging rook, by the way, over here, but there's mate on g2. So instead of that, Yakoboyev takes his foot off the gas. The rook goes passive. And Alireza, immediately with counterplay, 1 pawn move. Rook f6, bishop a3, d5 is a beautiful move. That's why the queen needed to be on b7. This wouldn't have attacked the queen. There were some other reasons as well. Point is that now when you take, whoops, and there it is. Queen b8, queen g8 is basically checkmate. There is no mate here. The rook still hangs. Alireza wins a 1,000 milligrams of caffeine type of game. I mean, this is a game you drank like 7 energy drinks before you played. Just a completely crazy game, and a game that really suits his style. So he bounces back nicely. He also has 5 out of 7 after losing earlier in the event to Parham. He has 4 wins. Very few people in this tournament have 4 wins. They have 3 wins, but he has 4 wins. Now, Eric Geisy Bluebaum. Eric Geisy is a nightmare opponent for most 2,600 rated players in the world. Matthias Bluebaum is having the best tournament of his life, okay? b5, this is some, anti-Catalan type of position. Bishop e3 is a strange move. Don't worry about it. Again, knight c3, in these types of positions, black looks for counterplay with the pawns and tries to get the pieces more active. White likes e4 this. Sometimes white goes for an attack. Bluebaum has shown excellent preparation in this tournament, excellent decision-making, excellent nerves as well, playing quite fast. And, again, like, you see Eric Geisy here looking to create some problems, and keeping the queens on the board, but he's not going to be able to generate the type of play that he normally does. And actually, early, it was Bluebaum who sort of figured out the position. You look here, white doesn't have any plan, really. I mean, this is a problem. It's taking space away. Black dominates the c-file. Black has better placed pieces, and you're never going to checkmate the guy. So at this point, it's almost bailout time. Now an excellent move. Queen e8, just a fantastic defensive move. Now your pawns are ready to go. Rook c2 is always an idea. Queen e4. And, Eric Geisy, much like Nihal Sarin, is very good at keeping the status quo in a position, like keeping the tension, not releasing, not seeing ghosts. But Bluebaum has done it as well, generating threats now with the bishop defended. Again, you're trying to weaken your opponent's position, and now you have to commit with this move g4. Erigaisi doesn't do that. G4 was the best move. It's an Erigaisi type of move, this type of, G4, but he doesn't play the best move. Neither does black. Now knight e4. Okay, he plays h4 now, but it really feels like the position's about to explode. I mean, black has defended everything. The move in this position is either bishop c1 or bishop f4. You have to have the nervous system here. And for the first time this tournament, his nervous system fails him. Because here comes bishop a8. And you don't have anywhere easy to put the queen. Any move like a6 or a4, the knight moves, attacking that queen, and you simply are losing material. Erigaisi goes here, looking for some, countermeasures, but black just wins a piece. Yeah, Erigaisi must have missed bishop to a8, or, I don't know, something, because he's simply losing. Like, anywhere he moves the queen, it doesn't really matter. Like, a4, knight b6, and you simply lose the bishop. There is nothing you can do. And it's been a week of chess, but even the mighty Arjun Erigaisi, by the way, queen a8, queen a8, just excellent play here, defending himself. And as good as he is with his defensive skills, Blue Bomb is going to make the time control with 2 minutes on the clock. He's just up a bishop. Queen f8 is a check, but there's nothing there. Nothing there. You can trade the rook, but the king is going to run to safety all the way over here, and this is game over. And Matthias Blubom continues the tournament of his life. 4 wins against 2785 Prague, 2771 Erigaisi. 2 probably top wins of his career. Probably. I mean, it's crazy stuff. And he's now up 18 rating points. He's nearly 2,700. Germany's about to have a second 2,700 rated player. It's amazing. I mean, in modern times, They had some. They had Hubner. They had Laskar, of course. Crazy. Just, this tournament is bananas. Now, Vidit Gujarati, Marc-Andrea Marizzi. Marizzi has been in multiple recamps at this point. I kind of have talked about him in a way like he had such an amazing start, and you kind of just hope that he doesn't, crash and burn out, which can happen. And he's up against, Vidit, who's extremely experienced. And earlier in this event, I showed some small endgame where Vidit missed the chance. Vidit is going to take the young man into a positional game. The young man tries to get a really weird Queen's Gambit declined on the board. And Vidit here thinks for a little bit. And he plays g4, which is the best move. And Marizzi takes so much risk. He is so creative because he's a young guy, 2600. Like, his openings with white, very dynamic. He's even playing for a win with black. The problem is the Queen's Gambit declined is one of the most established openings in chess. And if you take risk in it, you could get burned severely. So the bishop goes back to d7 here. h3, just solid. Castles. Vidit develops the knight. And now you're kind of like, well, I don't know what this knight is doing. I don't know what this bishop is doing. I don't know what that bishop is doing. Black just gets a kind of strange, uncoordinated setup and now has to play knight a5. And now it's not about activating your pawns. The computer wants rook e8, c6, b5. And then I think what it wants is to put the knight back on b7 and d6. So the computer here for black wants to play c6, bishop g2, rook e8, castle, b5, knight b7, and reposition to d6. That is the way that black is going to equalize. Problem is, when you play these spicy positions, sometimes it's too spicy. c5 is the wrong approach. Vidit takes, plays here, castles his king. He's just better. And, again, it's one of those moments, like, you can triple bet, like in poker, but you might lose all your money. Rook d1, queen back, b3 kicking out the knight moves. Now we try to weaken the pawn structure of the black king, d4. Marc-Andrea just decides, I need to create something. I don't want to kind of go back. Plays d4, just giving up a pawn. But the problem is, it's just a pawn. It's actually a second pawn. And Vidit is just 2 pawns up. And Vidit Gujarati just has to not panic here. Trades everything. Marc-Andrea is still creating some counterplay. Vidit occasionally stumbles a little bit, especially in a time trouble. But this position's hard to mess up. King f1. Before, not the computer's top choice. But again, Vidit down to 4 minutes. Time control is his worst nightmare. Queen b1. It's tough to be a Vidit fan sometimes, by the way. He does give his fans heart attacks. But now he's made the 40th move. He restabilizes. He needs to trade the queen or trade the rooks. he's going to get the queens off the board, and rook e5 is actually game over because the knight hangs, the pawn hangs with a check. Vidit wins. And out of nowhere, my man has 5 points. He has 5 points. Can't forget, Vidit won the previous candidates. No, that was Gukesh. He won the previous Grand Swiss. Vidit won in the first round. He's won in the 6th and 7th round. He's beating the 2600s. He had 4 draws in the middle. He has 5 out of 7. He's half a point out of first place. So Vidit is also in the running. Here's another matchup for determining who's going to be in the running. Nurjibek versus Tabatabai from Iran. An Italian. A very strange Italian where white expands on the flank first and black strikes back in the middle. White now plays like this. As we can see from the way black is playing, you know, he wants to put something on e6, fight back against this bishop. In the future, sometimes there are kingside attacks possible. But as we see from the way Nurjibek is playing this, it looks like black will need to be preoccupied with the defense of the queen side. And Tabatabai, from the time management, you know, down 30 minutes in the opening, he's going to have a long road ahead of him because he's going to have 37 minutes for the next 27 moves. And ultimately, that just might not be enough. He goes for it. He's trying to catch up on the clock, but Nurjibek does a great job here, leaving black with 2 very, very big targets. Ideas like knight c5 as well, ideas like this. Clearly an opening success and high understanding here from Nurjibek. Bishop a6, great move. Rook is hanging. Pawn on a5 is hanging. And after the trade, we trade the rooks. It's those weaknesses. It's this. It's the bishop. It's the pawn. I'm going to have a passed pawn. And Nurjibek picks the pawn up. He is just in the clear. Black has 10 minutes for 18 moves. And down a pawn. And under pressure. And Nurjibek is 27-50. Like, let's not forget, this dude is a very, very experienced player in converting positions. F4 kicks the knight away. And now it's just a smooth ride up the elevator. D6, D7, D8. I mean, I don't know how you stop this. You're going to have to sacrifice material. The pawn's going to go to D7 or C7. Nice move. Deflecting. Rook B8 is incoming. Tabatabai makes a few more moves, but ends up losing the game. This was a brilliant game from Nurjibek, and I think an underperformance overall from Tabatabai, who, with the black pieces, had to stabilize, and he got into, you know, this line of the Italian he obviously wasn't so comfortable with. He was left with weaknesses. Nurjibek did a great job. And Abdusattorov also with 5 out of 7. Now, on the women's side of things, Vaishali has just, like, shown up to this tournament with a flaming bow and arrow, like, just, like, literally piercing through everybody. She got hit with a Petrov by the player from China, International Master Qi Guo, and, you know, Queen D7 is like a little bit of a Petrov sideline. Almost every game Vaishali has gotten, she has gotten a comfortable position from the opening that can lead to a kingside attack. Knight G5, she grabbed the bishop pair, she moved the bishop back so it wasn't taken, got out of the way of the knights, and now you're going to generate play on this rectangle. White abandoned this side of the board completely. This is where we are going to checkmate our opponents. Knight G6. We play. Oh my. Vaishali Tal Ejba with a TAL. Mikhail Tal. Okay. Queen A4. Great move, by the way. But there was a move here. Rook E4 Vaishali could have played. She trades the bishop. And Queen C1 looking for Bishop G7, Knight H5, and Queen H6. A one-way ticket to a checkmating attack. Black plays Rook C6. B3 kicks away the queen. That is a mistake. You needed to keep the queen active. You needed to keep the queen either close or really, really close. Queen A6, it stumbles a little too far away. Bishop takes E7, not the top move, but the attack is very strong now with the pawns. And Vaishali, like in 3 moves, is just like F4, F5, F6, Knight G7, Queen H6. Just 5 moves. Boom, 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 boom. Into the position. Knight F5 is going to come, or Knight H5. There it is. That's just mate. Like, you just absolutely cannot stop this. You can take and lose your knight, and Vaishali has 6 out of 7, and every game she is just crushing. Absolutely crushing. Logno drew this round, and so ultimately this, I think the women's will come down to the last 3 or 4 games. Stefanova, former world champ Asobayeva is up there, and I mean, really, these top 6. I think Tan Zhongyi has a shot if she wins a couple of games in a row, but she's the previous challenger for the world championship. It's going to come down to Asobayeva, Lagno. Somebody has to beat Vaishali, and they only have 4 rounds to do it. I think in the next round, it's Asobayeva. Yeah, Asobayeva, if she beats Vaishali, just like in the Barham game, you know, it will really shake things up. As far as in the Open, the results are completely shaken up. Blue Bomb is winning the tournament. Nihal Sarin is tied with him. Mishra, Maksudlu, Firouzja, Abdusattorov, Hans, Smokey Niemann, Anish Giri, and Vidit Gujarati. And here are your pairings. Firouzja, Niemann. Oh boy. Blue Bomb Sarin, of course. You got your 2 leaders. They have to play each other. Maksudlu, Giri, Mishra, Nojibek. Super exciting. So I can't wait for the next round. And that's all I have for you today. Get out of here.